The Balkan Peninsula, a crossroads of civilizations and empires for centuries, once again finds itself under a cloud of uncertainty. This region, etched in history with tales of profound cultural exchange and devastating conflict, carries a legacy of intricate ethnic and political fault lines. These historical fissures, though sometimes dormant, have a tendency to resurface, reminding Europe and the world of their persistent nature. The memories of past wars, particularly the conflicts of the 1990s that tore Yugoslavia apart, remain vivid. These events carve deep scars into the collective psyche of the people living here, making the pursuit of lasting peace and stability an ongoing, challenging endeavor for all involved. The current date, May 28, 2025, finds the region simmering with renewed anxieties. The delicate peace, painstakingly constructed over decades, appears increasingly fragile. While many areas have seen progress, pockets of instability continue to pose significant threats. The complex interplay of national aspirations, historical grievances, and external influences creates a volatile mix. Observers watch with bated breath, concerned that the carefully balanced structures put in place to prevent further conflict could be undermined by rising nationalist sentiments and political maneuvering. The international community, once a more dominant force in peacekeeping, now faces its own set of challenges in maintaining a unified and effective approach to the region's problems. Historically, the Balkans have often been described as the powder keg of Europe. This ominous label reflects the region's unfortunate role as a flashpoint for larger continental and even global conflicts, most notably the assassination in Sarajevo that triggered World War I. The diverse ethnic, religious, and cultural tapestry, while a source of richness, has also been exploited by political actors seeking to divide and conquer. Understanding this deep-rooted history is absolutely crucial for comprehending the complexities of the present day. Without this historical context, current events can seem like isolated incidents, rather than a continuation of long-standing patterns of tension and intermittent reconciliation. The shadow of the past looms large over any discussion of the Balkans' future. The Dayton Agreement, which ended the brutal war in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1995, created a complex political structure designed to accommodate the different ethnic groups. However, this same structure is now being tested as never before. The fear is that if these foundational agreements begin to unravel, the consequences could be dire, potentially leading to a domino effect across a region still grappling with unresolved issues and competing visions for its future. The stakes are incredibly high, not just for the people of the Balkans, but for the stability and security of the entire European continent. Within the broader Balkan context, Bosnia and Herzegovina currently stands out as a focal point of acute concern. The security situation within the country has noticeably deteriorated, largely driven by the intensified separatist efforts emanating from the leadership of Republika Srpska, one of the two main entities that make up Bosnia and Herzegovina. This entity, predominantly Serb, has been increasingly vocal and active in challenging the authority of the central state institutions. These actions are not merely rhetorical. They involve concrete steps aimed at undermining the constitutional order of Bosnia and Herzegovina, an order that was established to ensure peace and coexistence after the devastating war of the 1990s. The president of Republika Srpska, Milorad Dodik, is a central figure in this escalating crisis. Known for his staunchly nationalist rhetoric and his openly pro-Russian stance, exemplified by his attendance at Moscow's Victory Day celebrations on May 9, 2025, Dodik has consistently pushed an agenda of secession. He has initiated measures to create parallel institutions within Republika Srpska for critical state functions such as justice, defense, and taxation. These moves directly contravene the Dayton Agreement and the Constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Recently, the Republika Srpska National Assembly even passed laws prohibiting Bosnia and Herzegovina's state judicial authorities from operating within Republika Srpska territory, a direct challenge that was subsequently suspended by Bosnia and Herzegovina's constitutional court, further heightening tensions. The situation has been further complicated by recent legal developments. Milorad Dodik himself was recently convicted and sentenced to 1 year in prison, along with a ban from political activity for 6 years. However, instead of tempering his actions, this conviction appears to have intensified his threats of secession and his efforts to dismantle Bosnia and Herzegovina's constitutional framework. The Republika Srpska Assembly has even passed a resolution to draft an entirely new constitution for Republika Srpska, signaling a clear intent to move towards greater autonomy or outright independence. This has led to new cases being launched by the Bosnia and Herzegovina Prosecutor's Office against Republika Srpska officials involved in these unconstitutional activities, creating a cycle of legal and political confrontation. Adding another layer of complexity to Bosnia and Herzegovina's internal struggles is the growing dissatisfaction among the Bosnian Croat population. Many Croats feel politically marginalized and believe their interests are not adequately represented within the current federal structure. They particularly resent the absence of their own distinct ethnic entity, similar to Republika Srpska for the Serbs and the area's predominantly Bosniak. This widespread discontent among the Croat community contributes significantly to the weakening of the central government's sovereignty and authority. There are concerns that, in a scenario of escalating conflict, some Croat factions might even align themselves with Bosnian Serb separatists if they believe it serves their own quest for greater autonomy or a separate entity. The armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina represent the unified military power of the state, a crucial institution in maintaining territorial integrity. Currently, the armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina comprise approximately 10,500 active soldiers, with an additional 6,000 personnel in reserve. Its structure includes maneuver forces, consisting of 3 light infantry brigades, each equipped with reconnaissance capabilities, infantry battalions, and an artillery battalion. These are supported by combat support units, including a tank and artillery battalion, alongside engineering, logistics, military police, and chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense units. Combat services are handled by a logistics command with 5 dedicated logistics battalions, tasked with sustaining the operational capabilities of the armed forces. The armament of the armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina is largely a legacy of the Cold War era, consisting of equipment of Soviet or Yugoslav origin, supplemented by some Western hardware. Their armoured vehicle fleet includes around 45 M60A3 tanks and a number of M113A2 tracked vehicles, along with HMMWVs and Dingo 2 multi-purpose armoured vehicles. Artillery capabilities are significant, with approximately 100 D30 122mm towed howitzers, 24 APR-40 multiple rocket launchers, and a substantial number of M75 120mm mortars. For anti-tank defense, the armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina relies on systems like the Malyutka and BOV-1. Air defense capabilities are primarily based on portable manpad systems such as Strela and Igla, alongside older 2 K-12 Cub missile systems and towed anti-aircraft cannons. The Air Force component is modest, with around 800 personnel and a limited number of operational helicopters, but no actively deployed fixed-wing combat aircraft, while Republika Srpska formally disbanded its own army in 2006 as part of the post-war integration. The entity retains a significant capacity to rapidly activate parallel armed structures. This potential stems from its de facto control over a portion of armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina personnel who are ethnically Serb and loyal to Republika Srpska leadership, as well as well-maintained loyal reserve structures. It is estimated that Republika Srpska could deploy between 3,000 to 5,000 actively prepared fighters in a very short time frame. Furthermore, it could potentially mobilize an additional 10,000 to 15,000 individuals from its reserves, many of whom are former members of the Army of Republika Srpska, with combat experience. This rapid mobilization capability poses a serious challenge to the central government's authority. The question of armament for such Republika Srpska forces is critical. Weapons could potentially be sourced from existing armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina stockpiles located within Republika Srpska territory, from secretly maintained warehouses, or through logistical support from external allies, notably Serbia, which could provide light equipment, communication systems, and ammunition. Republika Srpska could also swiftly re-establish its own chain of command, leveraging existing parallel security structures that effectively function as a shadow Ministry of Defense. This latent military potential means that any political move towards secession by Republika Srpska could quickly be backed by a credible armed force, dramatically increasing the risk of open conflict if the central government or international community attempts to intervene. The international community watches the unfolding events in Bosnia and Herzegovina with growing unease. The European Union, a key player in the region, appears divided, and its responses have often been criticized as inadequate or too slow to address the escalating challenges effectively. The European Union's influence seems to be waning, partly due to a perceived lack of credible membership prospects for Bosnia and Herzegovina and insufficient strong incentives to encourage genuine reform and cooperation. Meanwhile, the United States is attempting to revive its engagement, but its efforts have, thus far, remained largely symbolic. Two potential United States plans are reportedly under consideration, one involving a trilateral initiative for Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, and the United States concerning NATO and European Union integration, and another non-paper plan proposing a significant territorial reorganization of Bosnia and Herzegovina and a substantial economic stimulus package. Other international actors also play significant roles, each with their own interests and approaches. EUFOR, the European Union-led peacekeeping force, operates under a United Nations mandate and maintains a presence on the ground. However, its capabilities are limited, and it cannot prevent deeper political decay or armed conflict without a robust political solution and stronger international backing. NATO, through its Secretary-General Mark Rutte, has emphasized its commitment to maintaining peace in the region, but concrete actions beyond rhetoric remain to be seen. Turkey has positioned itself as a potential mediator, leveraging its historical ties and growing political intelligence and military influence, potentially acting as a guarantor of Bosnia and Herzegovina's sovereignty. Conversely, reports suggest Hungary may be supporting Dodik's policies, which often run counter to the West's agenda, while the United Kingdom has stated its preparedness to respond militarily to prevent any redrawing of borders. Looking ahead, several possible scenarios could unfold, each with profound implications. The first is a continuation of the current status quo, a persistent political crisis without direct armed conflict. In this scenario, the central government in Sarajevo remains weak, while the entities, particularly Republika Srpska, continue to build their power and autonomy. This path leads towards a de facto federalization or even confederalization of Bosnia and Herzegovina, characterized by chronic instability, a continued need for the EUFOR presence, and a severely negative impact on foreign investment and economic development, trapping the country in a state of arrested progress. A far more dangerous scenario involves an open escalation of conflict. Such a catastrophic turn could be triggered by a variety of events: a significant security incident, a political assassination, or a unilateral declaration of secession by Republika Srpska. This would directly threaten Bosnia and Herzegovina's territorial integrity and could rapidly destabilize the entire Balkan region, potentially drawing in neighboring countries like Serbia and Croatia, who have their own interests and ethnic kin in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Disaffected Croats within Bosnia and Herzegovina might even side with Bosnian Serbs, further complicating the conflict. Such an event would inevitably cause a new wave of refugees towards Europe and place immense pressure on European armies and security structures, forcing a major re-evaluation of European security. A third, more optimistic scenario though currently seen as unlikely, involves a resumption of meaningful dialogue and deep-seated reforms. This would require a significantly strengthened and unified role for the European Union, offering a clear and attractive vision for integration, coupled with robust support for internal reforms and genuine dialogue between the various ethnic and political groups. Such a path could bring lasting stability, reduce migration pressures and the threat of extremism, and unlock significant economic opportunities for Bosnia and Herzegovina and the wider region. However, the political will for such a comprehensive engagement, both internally and externally, appears to be lacking at this critical juncture of May 2025. The most perilous scenario is the outright breakup of Bosnia and Herzegovina. If Republika Srpska were to de facto or legally separate, it could trigger similar moves by Croatian majority areas, leading to the complete disintegration of the state. This outcome could unleash a chain reaction across the Balkans, particularly concerning sensitive issues like the status of Kosovo, and could lead to a resurgence of aggressive nationalism, new armed conflicts, and profound humanitarian crises. Such a development would necessitate a fundamental rethinking of Southeastern Europe's security architecture and would represent a monumental failure of international diplomacy, with severe and lasting consequences for the stability and security of the entire European continent, echoing the darkest chapters of its past.